Catch up with the latest national and international stories in 20 minutes this Good Friday evening, after the ITV news here closer to home.
Good evening, welcome to ITV News Meridian. Tonight's headlines. Back on the water, the former Marine who's recovered from tuberculosis and is now raising awareness. Scared of flying, special classes to help travellers conquer their fears. Some holiday spirit as the tornado steams in. Good evening. A former Marine who took a year to recover after contracting tuberculosis is campaigning to raise awareness of the illness. Caleb Solero from Waterlooville says that anybody can be at risk of the bacterial infection. In 2014, there were 6,500 cases of TB in England. More than 4,500 of those were born in countries where the condition is more prevalent. But almost 2,000 cases were people born here. Richard Jones has this report.
A year ago, Caleb Solero wouldn't have been able to spend time off getting ready for a kayak trip on the River Hamble. Back then, he had a persistent cough, night sweats, and was very lethargic. He and his GP initially thought he had flu, but as his symptoms got worse, he was admitted to hospital and after tests was diagnosed with TB. It's a disease he knew little about.
Kind of thought of it as an old Victorian coughing disease. That's all I knew, really. I knew it was in the lungs and that was about it. In terms of where I caught it from, I don't think I'll ever know really where I got it from, which is kind of the strange thing, because you can catch it and then it lays dormant within your system.
Caleb got better thanks to the TB team at Queen Alexandra Hospital in Portsmouth. They treat around 30 cases a year. Across the UK, more than 8,000 people contract the disease. Many are born overseas, but Caleb proves that no one is immune and that everyone needs to be aware.
It can be quite difficult to diagnose, and if GPs aren't seeing much TB in their general practice and someone who's previously fit and well presents with a cough, then it's often not the first thing that they think about. A lot of the work that we do is trying to raise awareness around the symptoms of TB.
Caleb now knows what the signs of TB are and hopes never to experience them again. He wants what he went through to help others.
It is becoming a little bit more prevalent within this country, though we do have a fantastic National Health Service and they do treat it incredibly well. If you're not aware of it, it can be a life-threatening disease.
Now that he has the all clear, Caleb is making plans. To celebrate his 30th birthday next year, he wants to make it to Everest Base Camp and teach at an orphanage in Cambodia. Richard Jones, ITV News.
2 people have been taken to hospital after a fire at a flat in Southampton. Crews from Redbridge and St Mary's put out the fire on Carlisle Road in Shirley early this morning. One fire officer described those inside as lucky to be alive. Meanwhile, in Windlesham in Surrey, 4 engines and crews tackled this house fire. It started in the bedroom, but the occupants were treated at the scene for breathing in smoke. More than 300 people have been stopped by police in Hampshire over the past week for not wearing a seatbelt. The crackdown was part of an international campaign to highlight the issue. 11 of those not strapped in were children. Figures are significantly down on last year, but police say more still needs to be done. Plans to close Hove's library have been approved by councillors. The 108-year-old building will now be sold off and library services will move to Hove Museum. More than 4,000 residents signed a petition against the proposals. Over the next few days, record numbers of people are taking to our skies as the Easter getaway gets underway. But the latest research suggests that 1 in 4 of us have concerns about flying. And 1 in 10 simply will not do it. It's now 30 years since the first Fear of Flying course was held at Gatwick, helping 50,000 people. Our transport correspondent Mike Pearce went to speak to some of the students.
All of the people in this room have one thing in common. They're in some way worried about flying. It's 30 years since the first of these courses that are now held at many of our airports. But will the nervous flyers get on a plane at the end of the day? And why do 1 in 4 of us have some fear of getting on a flight?
Mainly claustrophobia, so being in small compact spaces, and it's gone into lifts and stuff like that, and also fear of heights, so being too far up from the ground, and it makes me feel very, very anxious. So it feels like I could fall at any minute, like the plane's just going to kind of fall under itself and then I'll crash through the air. That's really what I'm fearful about.
I get very panicky sort of before I'm flying, so it often starts about 2 weeks beforehand, and I start going through lots of what ifs, and I start just worrying about the flight, and I particularly worry about turbulence.
I just don't like the lack of control, so I wanted to come today to sort of learn about the planes, understand how they worked.
The aim of the course is to explain how planes fly, safety, turbulence, and give them advice on managing their anxiety with relaxation techniques. Pilots and cabin crew are on hand every step of the way. The day ends with a flight.
And it boils down to, all sorts of different individual things. So claustrophobia is a very, very strong factor. Lack of control. Since 9/11, you don't even get to see the pilots quite often. You only get to hear them. And so on and so forth. All the strange noises and turbulence, of course, is probably our number one reason why a fear of turbulence that people come on these courses.
And so to the flight and the moment of truth. Well, in the end, everyone did get on. There's relief and a party atmosphere.
It's amazing. I think it was the best decision I've ever made. It's the biggest fear I've ever had, so overall I could not be happier with how I've gone through with it.
It was really, really good, and I wish I'd done it years ago.
I really enjoyed the way that they explained everything on the way out, mainly because takeoff was sort of my worst fear, I think, and just every part was explained so well that now I can replay that in my head, so next time it's going to be fine.
Many of these people may still be nervous of flying, but they're now much more confident. Mike Pearce, ITV News.
And you can find out more about that and the day's other stories on our website. Just go online and head to itv.com/Meridian. The owners of Didcot Power Station have warned they still can't tell whether the site is safe enough for the recovery operation to begin properly. 3 men remain buried in the wreckage after a building there being prepared for demolition collapsed more than 5 weeks ago. 20,000 tonnes of building are still standing, but the firm says the structure is too unstable for people to enter. The South's ambulance services expect to be called up to 15,000 incidents this Easter. That's an additional 700 call-outs. More call handlers, paramedics and ambulances are being brought in, but the service asks people to think before dialling 999. Time for some sport now. Let's take a look at today's football first.
ITV Meridian Sports Report, sponsored by WeWantAnyCar.com, the Cash for Cars website.
In League One, Wiltshire side Swindon Town played host to Wigan. At half-time, Swindon were 1-0 down. In League Two, Oxford United were held to a 1-1 draw at the Kassam Stadium by Stevenage, while Portsmouth thrashed Notts County 4-0, strengthening their push for the playoffs. And Crawley travelled up to York, drawing 2-2. It's fast and ferocious and is played by youngsters across the South. Power chair football is one of the fastest growing sports in the world. So Andrew Pate went to find out more.
In America, they call it power soccer. And it's in Orlando where the reigning champions will host the next World Cup in 2017. Here in the south of England, power chair football is growing in popularity too.
It's the only sport I can be very competitive in, and I'm a very competitive person.
Like an adrenaline sport, which that's what I like about it.
You don't even have to be in a power chair, you can be in a manual chair, and it's just good to come along and just join in and meet new people and have fun.
Teams from across the south competed in this tournament. One of the sides, Invicta, was set up as a legacy to a former power chair player. Mindy Bohi, who passed away 5 years ago.
He'd be quite proud to see that, how far it's going. And sadly, we lost 2 other players that were part of the team, and we've lost them as well. So it's just good to know that we made some sort of difference.
Portsmouth Football Club has a team. Their coach and the chairman of the South East region told us about the players who take part in the sport.
A range of disabilities, cerebral palsy, could be other brain injuries. Basically, if a player has to use a wheelchair as part of their everyday life, then they are eligible to play wheelchair football. And we'd encourage people across the South to come and join us.
When it was first played, they had old car tyres wrapped around the front of the wheelchairs. Clearly, it's a sport that's continuing to grow at quite some pace. Andrew Pate, ITV News.
It was a dream that took £3 million and a lot of hard work to complete. And now a team of steam train enthusiasts are showing off an engine they built from scratch. The Tornado is making its first appearance of the year in Oxfordshire. And as Lauren Hall reports, it's proving a popular attraction at the Didcot Railway Centre.
In this glorious sunshine, you might be surprised to see a tornado sweeping through Oxfordshire. That's the name of this steam engine, which has just arrived at Didcot Railway Centre. She's modelled on the original Class A1s, the last of which was scrapped half a century ago.
Thanks to a group of railway enthusiasts, this new locomotive is now in operation, ready to be enjoyed by a whole new generation.
She took nearly 20 years of planning and construction and cost £3 million.
It's been a dream to steam story for us, really, from the first ideas on the back of an envelope through to a completed locomotive. Fantastic for everyone.
This is Tornado's first public outing of the year, a welcome boost to visitor numbers over the bank holiday weekend.
You can see the crowds pouring in. I hope the weather keeps the way it is, and the more the merrier. We're looking forward to having a few thousand over the next 4 days and the rest of the week.
She's certainly proving popular, even if she is a bit noisy.
It was really, really, really good. Choo-choo.
Choo-choo! Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah.
Bit of everything, really. A bit of steam, bit of the smell, bit of the excitement.
He thinks the steam engines are a little bit noisy when they let off steam and when they whistle, but they're very impressive.
This one certainly is. After 50 years, the Class A1 steam engine is finally a contract. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
Lovely and sunny there, but will it last? Weather time now. Here's Helen Plint with your forecast.
That's us driving on, us driving off in France, and us outside a chateau.
Driving to Europe. Eurotunnel Le Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Hello there, very good evening to you. Well, it's been glorious sunshine getting us off to a fairly positive start to the bank holiday weekend, but brace yourselves, you may have guessed by now, it's not to last. So turning wet and windy tomorrow, showers working through on Sunday as well, potential there for some thundery downpours. And come Monday, all of this rounded off by the next named storm, Storm Katie. So as I roll the pressure sequence on, you can see just how unsettled things are over the next few days. Different low pressure systems jostling for position. And come Monday, this is when Storm Katie will be draped across the south of England. So affecting us with plenty of rain and particularly strong winds as well. Certainly a feature throughout this weekend. So overnight tonight, nestled under a little more cloud. It'll certainly feel a lot milder than last night. But tomorrow morning on the downside, well, it will be fairly dull grey start. Patchy rain as well. But later on in the afternoon is when the bulk of that wet weather will track west to east. So likely to be heavy at times and plenty of wind as well, gusting up to around 60 miles per hour, especially along coastal spots. So take care on the roads.
Eurotunnel Le Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
That's all from us on this Bank Holiday Friday. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon at 5:30. Hope you can join us then. If you do have any photos of you enjoying the weather, do send them in via our Facebook page. For now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much for watching. Have a lovely evening. See you later.